If we're gonna eat Chris's best time.
He sold it to his brother. They went union.
Good evening. It is now 7 o'clock on Tuesday, December 10th, 2024. I'm calling this meeting of the Chelmsford Conservation Commission to order. My name is Carl Bischoff. I'm the chair of the commission. We will be following the published and posted agenda. This meeting is both in person and through Zoom. In the case of the Zoom not working properly, we will continue the meeting in person only. This meeting is being broadcast and recorded by Chelmsford Telemedia and will be available on their website and YouTube. And we do have a quorum, so we will proceed. The beginning of the meeting, we always start with an open session, looking for any citizen concerns. If anyone in the public would like to get up and talk about something that is not on the agenda, you have an opportunity right here to let us know about a concern. And I'm not seeing anything, nothing on the Zoom, okay. And next on our agenda is report of the planning board liaison. And hello, Chris, good evening.
Good evening. The planning board did not have a meeting since your last meeting. We have one tomorrow night, pretty full agenda. We've got two.
Volume's up at the top.
It's on 80.
Hello.
It's still not.
Vivian, if that's you, need to mute.
Okay, well, that's useless.
Uh,
Oh, there we go.
Vivian.
Hi, Vivian.
Hi, Vivian. We hear you.
Hello?
I think it's Vivian. Okay. That's useless. Don't swear.
So
Sorry, Chris, go ahead.
It's okay. We've got two hearings tomorrow. A new hearing at 65 Dunstable Road for a major modification regarding a 2021 filing. And then we're continuing on with Palet Drive hearing. And we've got a bunch of new business to tackle tomorrow night. We've got the minor zoning changes that we might be putting forward at the next town meeting based on the Attorney General's review of our MBTA zoning. They looked at the MBTA zoning in relation to the general zoning bylaws that we have and made some recommendations. Our town council looked at them and made some recommendations, so we might put a couple small minor changes forward. So that'll be discussed tomorrow. We're also going to be discussing potential retail cannabis discussion from the recent select board meeting. So that'll be on the agenda tomorrow. And then we're continuing on with our ADU discussion regarding some changes that we might actually need to have a special town meeting for before the February deadline. So that'll be on the agenda tomorrow.
Is that cement now? They decided what they're gonna do and what they're not gonna allow?
So the law has been passed. We were waiting for the state to provide some guidelines as to how to implement. They released those, I think, on Friday. So we might be talking about those tomorrow as well. Our initial plan was to look at the law and just pass the small parts that we might need to just get into compliance, and then have a larger committee discussion probably about some of the bigger changes that we might need to make to bring it further into detail. But now that the guidelines have been, at least the draft guidelines have been released, we may end up going a little bit further. I don't know yet. But the state guidelines may change because this is only a draft that they've released for comment. So if we go too far down one path, we may end up doing something similar to what the MBTA zoning ended up doing, where we built the UMass campus based on draft guidelines and then had to redo some of it later. So I don't know how far we're going to go down the road.
Right, thanks.
Yep. Any other questions?
Thank you, Chris.
Thanks.
Thanks very much. So regulatory hearings will go right in order here. The next one is request for determination of applicability. This is an after-the-fact filing continued from November 26th. This is for 35 Brick Kiln Road, and I believe we have the applicant here, Kathy representing the applicant. Hello there.
Hi, how are you guys?
Good. Can you just state your name and your address, please?
Oh, Catherine Ramos and 35 Brick Kiln Road,
Thank you.
Chelmsford.
So David, do you want to start us off, or do you?
Yes, I'll start off if that's okay with you, Catherine.
Mhm.
So I visited the site on Monday, and just because there was a couple things I had noticed the previous site visit that I just wanted to get a better handle on. So I did, and I've spoken to Catherine already, so she knows all about this. So I did verify that the carport that's on the site right now is about 80 feet away from the wetlands, so it is within the buffer zone. It is on the other side of the retaining wall, so I would say it's probably up in this location somewhere. In speaking with Catherine, and please correct me if I say anything incorrect, Catherine, it sounds like they just as soon leave it there if they could. I said that the commission, probably the commission's biggest concern would be storage of hazardous chemicals or substances within it. So, I think as long as that's not the case, I don't have a problem with it.
The portable garage is a little bit upwards. It's right where that point where it says retaining wall, all caps.
Well, it's yeah. I don't think this is quite accurate because I measured from flag 2A, which is up here, and I say I got it. It's over on the other side of the retaining wall, and it is 79, 80 feet away. So there's something not quite accurate about the plan. I think the retaining wall may go something like this rather than like this.
So if anything, I think the retaining wall might be a little more forward than the 75 feet, but the portable garage that we have, which we don't store any cars, just to make that clear for you guys. We literally just store like basic like hammers, stuff like that my dad uses for his stuff. If it wasn't to make it more complicated to add it into the application, I would like to. If it would complicate the situation, then we would just move it to not make it, harder for you guys or for me. I spoke to Maureen. Hopefully by next week she might be able to do a site visit, and then by January I might have a restoration plan for the 25-foot
She's
buffer.
with Norse.
Norse, yes.
Yes.
Norse.
And I'm not sure if do you guys have any other concerns or stuff like that?
So let's go around. Peter, do you have anything you want to ask?
Yes. Hi, Catherine, or
Hi.
Kathy, do you prefer?
However, it's okay.
What again do you plan on storing or are storing in the carport?
It's honestly just like material, like either hammers or I think rakes and shovels and stuff like that, because it was part of what my dad used to use when he would do landscaping and stuff like that. But it's nothing that like would contain hazardous materials. As like David said, that if we were to put it in there, we wouldn't put anything that would contain either gas or anything that would ruin the buffer zone.
Yeah.
So we are completely aware of that.
Okay, yeah. Thank you. That's all, Carl.
Chris?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is coming along, and I'm looking forward to seeing the restoration plan.
Okay. Mark?
Where is the carport? Where the garage is going to be? Or?
No, it's I think it's up in this location. It's
Right
about
Right about here.
80
Oh,
feet
okay.
away, but it's on the other side of the retaining wall, so it's not. I don't think this is quite accurate. I think the retaining wall goes more like this.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know. Do you happen to know the size of it off the top of your head? The size of the carport?
It's one of those portable ones, like I think it's
It's metal poles and
yeah.
tent.
It's a tent.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a tent to be exact.
There is an exemption for sheds that if they're 12 by 12, 144 square feet, or smaller, and they're at least 50 feet away from the wetlands, the regulations have an exemption for that. In other words, they're allowed.
How many feet?
From the wetlands?
Yeah.
At least 50 feet, which this one satisfies. I don't know whether it satisfies the size requirement or not.
Is this like a 12 by 24 hoop house?
12 by 20, he thinks it is. Around those measurements, if not smaller.
A little too big.
So
But that's a temporary structure. Does that still have to be,
Yeah. I mean,
is that
that's,
considered a building?
Well, I don't know. Did you have to get a building permit for that?
It's a tent.
it's a
So,
tent, yeah.
So,
I've put them up before in my yard, I don't get a permit.
so I think really the possible issue of concern is that it's being used for storage rather than for a vehicle.
Yeah.
But again, as long as there's no hazardous
I
chemicals or
think that's the key
substances, I don't
thing.
think
That's the key thing.
That's all, I just said, yeah, there's not a, yeah, I agree with Chris is saying too. Thank you for coming forward and getting this resolved quickly, fairly quickly. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Sorry for the sorry for taking so long as well.
Bill?
I'm happy with whatever David, he's out there looking at it, so whatever he thinks needs to be done, I'm happy with that. The only thing is, when you get all done with your restoration plan and everything, as long as we have stamped plans and
Oh, yeah.
everything is ready to go, I'm happy.
Good. John?
No, I'm happy with what everybody's asked and said,
Okay.
you know.
Okay.
So I do think there is one point of clarification that needs to be made. So I think what I heard at the last hearing was that the commission wants to continue this hearing through the restoration plan.
Yes.
Right.
So Maureen will need to be here to present the restoration plan.
She can be on Zoom, but
When-
yes.
Once she has it prepared.
She has to show the plan?
Hmm?
Or can I bring it to you guys?
No, she really needs to present it.
Okay.
So she really needs to either be here or on Zoom to do that.
Okay.
Yep.
Just one question. So are we okay with the portable tent
Yeah.
that I have?
I think-
If
I think I
it,
heard
nothing
that.
hazardous or stuff like that is in there?
Yeah.
I mean, there will be, explicit condition that says you can't store the hazardous chemicals or substances, but
But if it's got just your hand tools and
I don't know what hazardous stuff I would need to store in
basically
my
like
house,
gas
but.
fuel is the thing that's most likely.
Oh,
If you're not putting gas in there, we're good.
okay. And then,
That's
like I said, hopefully next week I'm able to get a site visit, and then by January, I'm not sure when the next meeting is.
the
January
14th, January 14th.
Okay, then I'll hopefully have a restoration plan for the 25 foot.
Okay.
And Maureen tell her she's feel free to call me,
Okay,
if she wants my input on the restoration plan.
okay. Good.
Okay, I'll take a motion to continue the meeting to January 14th.
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Motion from Chris, second.
Second.
John seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We'll see you January 14th. Thank you very much. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you guys. Have a good night.
Have a
Happy
good-
holidays.
Happy holidays, yeah.
holidays.
Merry Christmas. Okay, so that's the first one on our list. The next one is 4 Palet Drive. And my understanding is we are going to be looking at having that continued
Yes,
to January 14th as well.
correct. There has been
Take a motion to
request.
continue.
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Motion from Chris, second. Bill,
Yes.
second from John, raise his hand first. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, motion passes to continue Palet Drive, Port Palet Drive to January 14th. Next one is also, 10 Hildreth Street is also a request to continue. We're still awaiting some information, and that hasn't come back yet, so we're going to continue that meeting, that hearing. I'll take a motion to continue 10 Hildreth Street to January 14th.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we continue 10 Hildreth Street until our next meeting of January 14th.
Motion from Chris, second.
Second?
I heard, did I hear you, Mark? I heard Mark first. Okay, motion, second from Mark. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we are continuing that one to January 14th. All right, next up on our list here is the discussion on the open space rec plan. Yeah, that's where we are. So, very quickly, the draft of the plan is out for review with the committee and a few certain key town positions. We will likely be recommending forming an open space and rec plan implementation committee to manage many of the actions identified in the plan on an ongoing basis. So more to come on that. There will be further reviews of the plan, including us, in January. I think we're on for the 14th.
Yes, yes.
That'll be on our 14th agenda, so you'll see a copy of the plan in the meantime
So
sometime.
that'll be at 6:30.
That's right. If you try to dial that in, try to send a reminder, we're gonna meet at 6:30 for that section of the review of the Concom meeting. There was gonna be a public meeting about this on January 9th at the library, and the last word is that's not gonna happen, and we're still trying to figure that out.
So it may be scheduled a week later at the library, or it might be scheduled in room 205, also on the 9th here.
Oh,
We'll
okay.
see, still
Stay
trying to work
tuned.
that out.
Okay, more to come. And that is all I had on the open space and rec plan. Next discussion point is on the guidance for, guidelines for approval of reservation site requests. So that document was handed to you at the last meeting, and the copy was sent to you. And I think the idea here is that we do get requests for events. David gets them fairly often, and at different sites, and we've had many events over the years, all kinds of events. In fact, I was at the bottom of the page, there's the Thanksgiving walk at Thanksgiving Forest, the tree decorations on many of the sites. There's many outings at Red Wing Farm. We've had scouting activities over the years. There's been night walks. There's mountain bike rides that have happened at different sites, besides just the normal mountain bike riding at Russell Mill. So there's a lot of different things that do happen over time. And so the idea was to help David in assessing these and have our guidance for him. We're going to maybe take another look at the event, what do you call it, the application document?
Event registration form, and I actually have this as well. And this actually, I really like this form.
Okay.
It's very simple, straightforward. It looks like there's actually quite a bit of thought was put into it. So I'd prefer to keep it this way,
Okay,
this format, if possible.
might tweak it and make it easy to fill out online.
Yeah, a fillable form
yeah,
would be good.
Yeah, yeah, and add a couple of sites on there. Although
I've
Poulos
added
is on there,
Poulos.
okay.
I
Is
haven't,
Warren
Poll
Poll
is
isn't
not.
on there. Oh, come on, okay.
know, I know.
All right, okay. All right, but we can do that. But I guess, just to talk about it a little bit, that, the number of people to me isn't so much the issue as what's the impact to the site based on the number of people. And, so as an example, if 100 mountain bikes are riding through on a muddy day, that's a big impact versus, Thanksgiving Forest, there's 100 people that walk in Thanksgiving Forest the day before Thanksgiving, and it's not an issue at all. It's just what it's for. So I think that's the question in general that we want David to think about when he's looking at these. And then the other thing is parking. If it's a road, a site that's like Warren Pole doesn't have a lot of parking beyond the parking that's in the lot versus the Thanksgiving Forest, people park up and down the streets on that day, and it's not a big deal. But we wouldn't want people parking on Boston Road up and down the street. I think we'd have police contacting us.
And that's doubly true, say, for a night event.
Right.
What's the largest involvement on Russell Mill? Does they get 100 bikes there?
I think on a given day, there's probably 100 bikes out. There's a lot of people that go there.
That amends itself. It isn't an issue when they
Yep.
have 100 bikes out there.
No.
But there was an issue with people at the Cranberry Bog wanted to do a bike
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, they wanted to
Which
ride
might
through.
have impacted
They wanted to
that
ride through, yeah.
Right.
more so.
Yeah, and that would be more of an issue because bicycles aren't very common there. It's
Right.
Whereas
Right.
Russell Mill,
There's no
everybody knows there's bicycles at Russell Mill.
That was a staggered release too, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
And,
So,
and I don't think all the bike riders at Russell Mill park there. I've
Oh,
talked to
oh.
bikers there that
Yeah.
their car was not parked in that lot, it was parked
somewhere else, like
Wherever.
Billerica, yeah.
anywhere.
Yeah, yeah, I've seen that, and vice versa. I see people park at Russell Mill, ride their bike through the the trails and then go out to Billerica and come back 2 hours later. And they were only in Russell Mill for
Yeah.
maybe 15 minutes or 10 minutes.
And that's good, right? That's
Yeah,
the point.
that's connectivity, yeah. So, and then the other thing to think about is letting David, determine if we want to cap an event, like we say maybe at night, it's like capping an event would make sense if it's at night and you don't want to have 100 people out in the woods at night or something like that. So having 20 people or something like that be the right thing. And then talking about the type of event, if it's ones that have been repeat, to me, these are not a big deal. If it's like the same thing year after year, we haven't had an issue, those are pretty easy. It's when somebody comes up with something new that David needs to be able to ask.
Well,
kind
like
of-
they want to do the night walk on the trails. That was
Yeah.
something different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts about walking on trails at night? What are you thinking, Bill?
If we don't, I'd rather not, I think. I'd rather be in the larger area. Like they have they've done a couple of things at Coulis in the open field, which I think is good at night. You may be taking a chance letting people go into the trails at night where we have the rule dawn to dusk. You know?
Yeah, and that's to prevent just random people at any time.
Right.
This is for a specific guided event.
I think
That's,
would depend on what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't make a blanket
Yeah,
statement.
yeah.
know.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Peter, go ahead.
I was just going to say, to Bill's point, personally, I feel a whole lot more comfortable having a bunch of Boy Scouts walking around the site than, for example, extreme version, a preschool. In other words, to me, I don't see the risk unless the town is worried about a lawsuit. And I would want that answer before I really took a firm position. What's our liability if somebody gets hurt? And if we have any liability for the town, don't we have an obligation to at least discuss that with town council?
Yeah, good question.
You don't want anyone to get hurt, but, at some point, we need to
Right.
look at the town.
Okay, Chris, you were going to say?
I think we got to look at the site in the group and kind of the activity closely. I know from personal experience, been out with the scouts a lot in the past. I mean, we went out, we did, night hikes without problems. We did it a lot, but it was the scouts, it was very disciplined, supervised. So it worked out well with the scouts. I could say that was successful. But again, it depends on the site and the group that you got and the leadership that's involved with it.
So if it's a question like that, do you want David to bring it to the board? If it's something out of the ordinary?
Yeah, I think it was out of the ordinary, come to the-
So the Boy Scouts, you're okay with?
Yeah, I'm good with the Boy Scouts. I mean, I've had a lot of personal experience, and Boy Scout groups were always well organized, supervised, and,
Yeah.
they'd had some parameters around, there's obviously areas that, they shouldn't go into, but, they're sticking to the trails. Yeah.
Just make sure at least one of them has their first aid merit badge.
John?
I agree with Chris, exactly. The group and, where it is.
Yeah, okay.
Boy Scouts are Boy Scouts. I mean, that's,
Mark?
Yeah, there's,
Okay, yeah, I feel like, same thing, that if it's an organized, responsible group at night, on a trail that's well-maintained, not bushwhacking, if we're not bushwhacking, then I don't really have a problem with that. I don't think it should be 3 in. I think it should be, 8 o'clock or 7 o'clock, or this time of year, 5 o'clock or whatever, but, I think, your comment a few weeks ago was about disturbing the wildlife.
Yeah,
Around
potentially.
dusk is actually when they're out a lot, but
Yeah.
still, they're used to running across people at that time versus at 3 in. They're not, the critters aren't used to seeing anybody, not used to it, doesn't mean it doesn't happen.
Well, and I think especially if it's on the trails, I think
Right.
that's
Right.
less disturbing than going out into the woods.
Randomly.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
you want to put a time on it? I mean, there's campers out there. Let the Boy Scouts camp out there? too?
Yeah, I mean, if they're camping overnight, then to me, the idea is, you know, we're assuming they're not getting up at 2 in the morning and doing a hike then. You know, you might make that a comment or something if somebody's doing that, but I think, you know, without getting too strict here with everything being regulated, I think just common sense. I think that's reasonable. But I like, you know, Mark, you had said it earlier, and Chris, you said it about we should understand our legal situation. David, can you talk to, or do you understand what our, if somebody, if something bad happened, and especially if it was like the leader didn't do what they were supposed to do, became irresponsible.
There's like negligence. I think that, that there is no legal liability on the part of the town. I will verify that. But I think above and beyond that, there's also the issue of, you know, somebody possibly saying, you know, the commission showed poor judgment
Right.
in allowing something to happen, or approving something under circumstances where something could happen, something.
Yeah.
So that, I think that's something to keep in mind as well.
Yeah, and I know that's always a risk, but sometimes you gotta, you know, still let things happen.
You're right, sometimes you have to rely on the people who know how to handle these things.
Yep, yep.
And not to draw this out, but is there any value in speaking with our first responders? Like, people that would have to respond should there be an incident, and get their views? Because you don't want to do something that puts them at unnecessary risk.
Yeah, well, yeah, I think that's a good point.
Yeah.
That's a good point. I mean, if there's an emergency, you know, at middle of the night, you know, somewhere, you know, deep on a trail, that might be a concern.
That might be something for you to put into the permit application, is say, make sure that they have a thought process for what they're gonna do if there's some kind of an emergency, like evacuate. I mean, again, unless they're way out in the woods, you know, and Russell Mill can be like that.
Yeah.
Most of our sites, you know, especially if it's at night, they're not gonna be too far
True.
off the easily accessible part of the site.
Yeah.
So, but it's a good point. So, okay, then I think what we'll do is there any other questions, David, that you?
Just a
yeah.
couple of other points I'd like to raise, and we've talked a little bit about this already, Carl. So I think in terms of the person making that request, it should actually be the sponsor. Like if it's the Boy Scouts, it should be the Boy Scout troop leader,
Yeah.
not somebody who's acting as agent for the Boy
Right,
Scouts.
no, I agree, because that's the responsible person.
Yeah.
Is the troop leader or the teacher of the class or whatever. I agree.
Yeah.
The applicant should be the person that's leading the group.
Yes. And then just the other one is sort of the sequence. I know, my understanding is sometimes the event is advertised first on like social media, and then I get the request form. It really should be the opposite sequence.
Yep.
I mean, if it's at least 3 weeks advance notification, which it should be, then that shouldn't be a problem. Then, you know, assuming I promptly, you know, approve or
Yep.
give an answer. Then once the approval is given, then it can be advertised, because, you know, there might be special conditions on it, you know, like
Right.
number of participants limited 25 or something like
Yep.
that, you know.
Good point, okay. We can talk about minor changes, because I agree with you, that form looks good, and we're making these website changes so we can tweak it a little bit and include that, so, okay. Good. Anything else? Anyone else have any other comments? Okay. Next. Okay, update on Coolis Farm. Yeah, actually, is not much there. Sudbury Valley is having a board meeting to discuss, a board meeting, and this will be a topic on their agenda. I don't know if it already happened or if it's happening this week. I was trying to find the date, but we'll find out. But they're on the CR. This is on being the CR holder. And the BDR is in process, so.
Expect that by the end of the month, yes.
Yep. The next thing is that the Warren Poll CR status, so we did get agreement with the Land Trust on the changes that were proposed by KP Law. As you guys remember, we had a new town council at the end of, beginning of July. And I'll just say they have a deeper experience in this space than previous town council. And we got some good recommendations. It wasn't, I wouldn't call it huge, wasn't dramatic, but there were a few recommendations. And David and I and Paul Cohen met with that town council, went through that, kind of filtered it, but we pretty much took everything, 3, 4, 5 things, and met with the land trust, and they were fine with everything, virtually everything. So those changes have been accepted, and we're now going to submit this to the select board for review 2 weeks, I think. Yeah, 23rd, which shouldn't be an issue because they had already approved it before, and there's the changes here are, I would call them fairly minor, and then submit it to the state. So assuming you guys are all okay with this, with these changes, that's.
Sounds good.
How long does it take for the state to respond?
We could be having Christmas next year.
No kidding.
Yeah,
Maybe a year or more.
yeah. The lawyer at KP Law, he said, because our CR doesn't have any money tied to it, there's no grants, there's no funding, there's no acquisition or anything, it'll keep getting pushed to the bottom of the pile. So,
Oh, no kidding.
so it could be, he said, 6, 8 months, 10 months. Maybe they'll surprise us, but I'm not going to hold my breath.
Does the
And-
legislature review this?
No, it's it's part of the
DCS, Division of Conservation
yeah.
Services.
Yeah, and I think they have hired some external lawyers and people to review.
Yes,
to
yes,
get
so they
caught up.
say they're working and maybe even making progress on the
Backlog.
backlog, speeding up the time, but I don't know how much that's worth,
Yeah.
those kinds of
So
assurances.
we'll see. All right, and then last thing is agent's report, update on the Freeman Lake parcel, David?
So I have been able to verify that 5 of the 6 Willis Road parcels that Darlene put in her spreadsheet are Conservation Commission land. There's one, I don't remember it off the top of my head, that it's not. The surveyor is currently working on the 3 for which we actually have a deed. And by the way, the way I learned that 5 of the 6 parcels are Conservation Commission land, because there at a special town meeting in June of 2021, a whole bunch of parcels around Freeman Lake, not just on Willis Drive, but all around the lake,
I remember that.
were turned over to the Conservation Commission, including the 3 that had already been deeded to the commission back in 1989. So
We moved it twice?
yes, right. So
How would I, sorry to interrupt, how would I find those other parcels?
I'll email those to you. The treasurer sent me a copy of the warrant.
That's funny.
Which was the June. You can go back and look at the town clerk's website. You can look at the June, I think it's 6th, 2021 special town meeting.
Yeah.
Has all of
That was a regular town meeting. I don't think it was special.
Okay, yeah, it was annual,
it-
but I guess it was delayed due
It
to
was
COVID.
delayed because of COVID,
Yes.
I think, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I think.
So I think, I think the way to proceed with this is to let the surveyor work on the 3 that he's currently doing, and then go back to the other 2, because those are gonna require more research, since all we have is final judgments from the land court on a tax title taking.
Okay.
And then maybe after that, do some others, around other parts of the lake as well.
Okay, good.
Carl?
That's good, yeah.
I have a question. We have I don't know, what's the number, 100 of these small parcels in town that, same question, we're not entirely sure sometimes of ownership. Is it fair to assume that we have this kind of an issue in a lot of these?
Yeah, I think that's
The poor
possible.
documentation, if you will?
Yeah, I think that's possible. I think,
Okay.
I think it's a question for town council, what is the best way to make a record of these parcels that are transferred to the Conservation Commission by town meeting? There should be something recorded at the registry. And that, so when you go to the assessor's website, you see the deed reference is a vote to turn to, it's either a deed to the Conservation Commission or a town meeting vote, a record of a town meeting vote to turn over the parcel to the Conservation Commission. I mean, because, you know, otherwise this will keep happening every 15 or 20 years. You know, my successor will have to go back and, you know, look for the records, where it should be much easier to find. You know, should come up right away when you click on
So-
the parcel on the website.
To turn that around, can you take an action to ask town council that question?
Yes.
What do they recommend? I think
Yes.
you're probably on the right track. I'm guessing you are, yeah. Okay, thank you. Good question. Yeah.
If it's determined that it's conservation, will it be marked and mowed and so that it looks beautiful, like it should, instead of people just parking cars and picnic tables and?
Well, that's what will have to be discussed. Now, something to keep in mind is these boundary surveys right now do not include the placement of any kind of monumentation on site. That's going to be a separate project, and we'll have to go through the same things. We'll have to get cost estimates. I personally think, yeah, that really should be done to the extent that it can be. Place monumentation at the corners, and then how are the parcels going to be managed? What's going to be allowed, what's not going to be allowed. But that's the subject of future discussion.
Good question, though. That's,
David, who's doing the survey work?
That's Hancock.
Hancock.
Yeah, I have a question though. There were 3 vehicles parked behind my house the other day, and I called my neighbor to say, what are these people doing? They were standing outside a truck talking. Were they maybe the surveyors?
Well, it would have said Hancock on the.
It was a truck and 2 cars.
no.
No, it would, if it was Hancock, it definitely would have said Hancock on
Yeah.
the side of the vehicles.
Yeah.
It could be. I mean, you're not gonna find probably a control point down by the water. You have to go back a distance to find one that comes
Yeah,
off.
I didn't think about that till today,
Hmm.
because she and I were kind of thinking about what was going on.
But I'm sure if they haven't been out already, they'll be out there soon.
Yeah.
Because they do have to go out on site, and if you see, like blue or pink ribbons tied, that's probably them, what they're doing.
I was just thinking, myself, that if this were conservation, that it would be mowed once a year, little signs like you already have,
Mhm.
where everybody knows it's conservation.
Yep.
And you can't privatize the land, which has
Yep.
been done over the years.
Yep,
Right.
we hear you.
Thank you.
David, Littleton Road, next one.
So, recall, this is discussed at the November 12th meeting. So shortly after that, I send the property owner an email saying, Conservation Commission respectfully requests the removal of the storage container by November 30th. And it's still there, past November 30th. So my recommendation is, and that was a courtesy. That was a courtesy to him. So my commission didn't have to do that. So my recommendation is issue an enforcement order at this time. The thing to do is decide, give him a deadline for removing it. Maybe by the end of the year. That's the main thing I need to know to put into it.
I have no problem going with an enforcement order right away. We'll give them more than enough time.
Well, especially where there's already an existing record on this.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
I'm good with that, too. I'm seeing nods.
I make a motion then that we issue an enforcement order with respect to the Littleton Road storage container, and that it be removed by December 31st, 2024.
Second.
Motion by Chris, second by Bill, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous.
That was kind of a sensitive area too. I hope they didn't disturb a lot of
Yep.
stuff when they were in there putting the
Exactly.
trailer in.
So there
It's
are
small.
2
Yeah,
pages to be signed.
20-footer,
Huh?
20-footer.
It's still, it's
Is it 20 foot?
not
Oh,
supposed to
yeah,
be
that's a
there.
20-footer.
All right, we do not have any meeting minutes, I think. Vivian, I know, is diligently working on it. Probably she'll be working on it as we speak. 'Cause she's
This is our Vivian, though.
That is our Vivian.
That is our Vivian?
Yeah, yeah. I think it is.
Hi, Vivian.
So we will, I'm sure we'll have some meeting minutes soon that we can,
Now that the Christmas tree is lighted.
yeah. I will take a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Motion from Chris, second, second Mark, or John. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye.